Here, a short overview.
So Hong Kong, I think at the moment has around 7 to 8 million inhabitants. It's a very, very small city.
Very small.
Very small. It's a dot basically on the map. We speak a very different dialect than Mandarin. So it's kind of like the Irish of Chinese, I like to tell people. The best skyline in the world. You have
Who says that?
the Hong Kong people.
Welcome, listeners, to the podcast Global Communicator. Don't believe tourists, we ask the locals.
Global Communicator, the podcast.
Hi, Jason.
Hi.
What a pleasure to sit today here at the Management Center Innsbruck, a private university of Innsbruck, where you are actually a professor, right?
Yes, I'm the assistant professor of English language and business communication.
Perfect. But that's not the reason why we are actually here today, because you're born and raised in Hong Kong.
Yes, that's correct. I was born and I spent my formative years in Hong Kong before we moved to Canada. But I've worked in Hong Kong for a few years. Later on in life, I was in Hong Kong last year actually.
Okay, your knowledge is very fresh. So listeners, welcome to our new episode. And once again, thanks for your support all the last season. So crazy that we had an average over 15,000 visitors and listeners. Crazy, thanks for that. And today, you already heard a few words from Jason. We're gonna speak about Hong Kong and China. Jason, can you give our listeners a short overview about China and especially about Hong Kong in the end?
Well, you're starting with a very difficult question because China is huge.
True.
I come from the south, so I can tell you a little bit about the south, which is in the Guangdong province. Mm-hmm. We speak a very different dialect than the Mandarin. So it's kind of like the Irish of Chinese, I like to tell people.
Okay.
That's
already a good fun fact, and I like how you started because you already give our listeners a good overview and separate it in
it's
different
relevance,
parts.
right?
Yeah, very relevant. Everyone knows China is huge.
Yeah. So I've lived in Beijing for work for a couple of years, but most of my experience in China had been in the south.
So listeners, keep in mind, we start today with the south of China, and you already pointed out where your experience are. That's why we have this podcast. We want to ask locals, so don't ask tourists, we ask locals.
Sure.
That's our motto, and that's also why we ask locals. There's also the local bias, which makes our podcast unique. So just give our listeners a short overview about China, like capital, population. You already mentioned Mandarin, the language, and different dialects also exist, like yours is Irish.
Cantonese, my dialect sense. So Hong Kong, I think at the moment has around 7 to 8 million inhabitants. It's a very, very small city.
Very small.
Very small. It's a dot basically on the map. So to fit 8 million people in that dot is quite amazing, I think. It used to be a British colony for many years, and it became a special administrative region in 1997 when China took Hong Kong back from the British government. It's still a special administrative region. The agreement.
What does that mean?
It's like a special economic zone where the laws are different from mainland China. We still carry on with the laws that were set by the British from before. It's like a little special zone within a country, so the rules are a bit different.
Okay, there's a bit different rules, but do you have your own politicians?
Yes, we have our own chief executive officer of Hong Kong and our own government. But they report to the central government of Beijing. Hong Kong is a very safe place. I believe violent crime rates are really low comparatively compared to other countries. So it's great for tourists.
Perfect. So listeners, we have already a very, very positive fact. It's very safe.
It's safe.
Yeah, exactly. So that's also one of the questions which I ask in every podcast. So my listeners know different topics which I always ask. Other question is always, are there some places which people have to see?
All right, I think if you go to Hong Kong once, You have to go to the peak, where you would see the view of all of Hong Kong, the harbor. For the people who don't know, it's essentially divided between the Kowloon side, which is then across from the Hong Kong Island side. And then if you go on the peak, which is on the Hong Kong Island side, you have a view of all of Hong Kong, which at night could be very beautiful, the best skyline in the world. You have
Who says that?
the Hong Kong people.
So we see, also a bit biased, but
What else?
listeners, try it by your own and let me know if it's true.
You probably should go to the Buddha, which is on Lantau Island, and you should take the cable car across to the big Buddha. That's also a big tourist attraction. The night markets, of course. Food is very important. I'm sure you're going to ask me about that.
Exactly, yeah.
What else? I mean, Hong Kong, I think for a lot of people who go there for the first time, they would be very surprised that it's different to China in the sense that it's a very good mixture of East and West because of the colonization. So China is it gives you different cities, gives you different Chinese vibes. But Hong Kong, you can't really put your finger on it because it's like a mix of two cultures. And I think this is one of the things that Hong Kong people are very proud of too, is this mixed amalgamation of two cultures. Yeah.
So there's still very high influence which you can feel from the British colonization in the past.
Well,
what
yeah.
gives you the West influence, which you just mentioned?
Everywhere you go, you would see things that remind you of the colonial times. For example, the double-deckers, before people stopped using public phone booths, they looked very similar, some of them did, and also the post box when people used to send letters. A lot of roads named after British politicians from the past. Well, they didn't change the name.
They didn't change the name at all?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So
Okay.
in English, it's, the names of famous people from the UK, and of course, then there's a Chinese translation. Yeah, and you see a lot of expatriates. It's after COVID, the number has decreased, but you still see a lot of expatriates in Hong Kong in certain areas, financial districts, for example.
Well, Jason, we already pointed out a few spots in Hong Kong. Is there any secret spots which people can't directly find on YouTube?
I think there are two things which I like to talk about. One, a lot of people don't think of Hong Kong as a city that has a lot of nature, but that is actually quite different to the truth.
But how is that possible? You just told me it's very small and such a high population.
Yeah, but people are more concentrated in the urban areas, right? But because it's so small, it's so easy to get to the islands, to get to the mountains for a hike or island hop, which is a very popular pastime for a lot of expatriates in Hong Kong. A lot of people even live on the islands. So one of my favorite things to do when I was there was a hike on the Dragon's Back. It is a very long hiking trail on one of the mountains, and you get a really good view.
And it's called Dragon's Back.
Dragon's Back, yeah. Because the mountain's kind of like dragon, so you're hiking on it. So the nature, actually, in general, is underrated, I think. A lot of diving, actually. In Hong Kong, you can also take one of the boats out to the South China Sea to whale watch.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know the natural side about Hong Kong. You see the buildings, you see the skyline, you see the shopping, you see the financial district.
Exactly, that's what I expected.
Yeah.
So I'm actually surprised that your secret spots are nature things to do. Yeah.
That was one of my favorite things to do because, how much can you shop, right?
Well, yeah, true. Well, I'm totally with you.
Yeah, so the other secret spot I have to talk about is actually not a spot, but another city, which is connected to Hong Kong, more or less by ferry, which is Macau. So last year, actually, I lived in Macau, but I worked in Hong Kong because my mother is from Macau. So her family is there. So I lived there for a year last year, and it's about an hour travel to Hong Kong. And now we've got the longest suspension bridge that connects Hong Kong to Macau by car. So you can actually travel from Hong Kong to Macau with buses or other public transportations. I think it takes about an hour. And that's actually a really cool place. It used to be a Portuguese colony for many years, and it's got some Portuguese influence. You see the street signs, and some of the streets are all cobblestone, so a little bit European. So that's actually a place people don't usually go to when they go to Hong Kong, but it's worth a day trip at least, I think. Yeah.
And
so
you traveled every day, like 1 hour from Macau to Hong Kong?
I didn't do that every day. I taught at a local university, and so I did that when I had to teach.
Yeah.
I think people know Macau as the Las Vegas of Asia.
Exactly, that's how I know it actually, yeah.
Yeah, but that's like the shopping and the finance Hong Kong, that's not the only side.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know any locals who go to the casinos.
It's just for tourists?
Well, for people who like to gamble, for tourists. I mean, it's really nice. It really is like Las Vegas. But
it's more to see there.
Yeah, it's really fancy, it's new, expensive. But I prefer the old Macau, the alleyways, and looking at the different. There are a lot of Portuguese-style churches, for example. It's very Catholic, so there are a lot of Catholic churches that are still around. So yeah, that would be actually my secret spot if you go to Hong Kong, which is spend some time in Hong Kong, go to Macau.
Already on the bucket list. Well, Jason, thanks. So just to sum it up, we have been very surprised that your secret spot is nature, so that the dragon speck, right? Yeah. What's it called? And also you can dive with wallfish.
No, you can go whale watching.
Whale watching, sorry. Yeah. Whale watching. And Macau, that's your secret spot.
Yep.
Amazing. So thanks for that already. And can we also generalize it? Do you have any spot in South China where people should go except this, what we already mentioned?
Well, I think if you're into tech, you should go to Shenzhen, which is just across the border from Hong Kong, because Shenzhen is known to be the Silicon Valley of China.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of tech companies are based there. A lot of interesting things are happening in Shenzhen. I haven't been last year, but even before when I visited, it was already quite advanced. I think that would give people a very different picture of China to what they would imagine. I really like Guangdong, which is a city in the Canton province, for the food, for the culture. I think the Cantonese culture is quite different in terms of food from the north, as all countries are. But another place I think is kind of off the beaten path for a lot of tourists would be Hainan Island. This is known as the Hawaii of the East.
Okay, so a lot of comparisons.
Yeah, so I recommend it because actually my family is originally from Hainan. Hainan was an island until it was connected to the mainland. And
how did they connect it?
I think by bridge. I'm not really sure actually. Okay. Don't quote me on that. And lots of nice beaches, resorts, really cool place to relax if you're into that sort of thing.
So already a very southern and holiday feeling.
Yeah, a lot of people go there to chill.
Amazing. Thanks a lot for that. Guys, you have already a big bucket list, so make sure that you see everything what Jason just mentioned.
Yeah, maybe it would be hard to go do all these things in one go, but
we will see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, thanks for all the suggestions and all your secret spots. And you already mentioned a few times Macau and the Las Vegas part of Macau. That's called in this way, that it's very expensive. So I'm curious, what's the price level in general in South China, Hong Kong and so on? If you compare it now with Central Europe here, do you think it's more expensive, more or less the same, or cheaper?
In general, I think it's cheaper. It depends where you want to go and spend money and eat. But I think the big difference is in Central Europe or in Germany, where I spent a number of years. The prices are kind of even. You can't really drop too much money, but whereas in Asia, in Macau or Hong Kong, if the sky is the limit. If you want to spend, I think like €5 would be a good meal in Hong Kong. You could go with €5 for lunch, maybe
Very
dinner.
surprisingly. Yeah.
You thought it would be cheaper?
No, actually more expensive I expected.
Like I said,
Yeah.
you know, how local do you go, right?
Yeah.
I've had cheaper meals.
Do you have actually a favorite restaurant in your mind which you can suggest?
Yes, I do actually. So I have a friend, his name is David, and he is actually a chef. And he runs his restaurant in Central, in the financial district of Hong Kong, called Neighborhood, because it's in a little neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it's really, really cool restaurant because it's very intimate and small, and he just buys ingredients locally. He sources his ingredients locally, seafood and poultry and all that from the area, as much as he can. And he is very creative in the ways that he prepares the ingredients. And it's called Neighborhood. Actually, I believe.
Easy to remember, so.
Yeah. A couple years ago, he received his Michelin star, and the prices are actually quite decent for a restaurant at that level. So, whenever I go, I visit him.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah. So, listeners, if someone of you is going there, let us know.
Yeah,
really
shout
interesting.
out to David from Neighborhood.
Yeah, David from the neighborhood, and say hello from Jason.
Yeah.
Well, that's perfect. And well, if you're already at food, what are very good dishes in South China?
Well, all dishes are good, but there is something if
point.
you haven't, you know, because of the Chinese, we love food. We cannot.
Fame for that, actually.
Yeah. We talk about food when we're eating food. So the one thing I would really suggest people try is dim sums, if you haven't tried it before. Basically, again, another reference, it's a Chinese tapas. So the word dim sum literally means to touch your heart. So little bits not to fill you up, but to kind of satisfy your hunger for the time being, I suppose.
Okay.
And you eat these little dishes with tea, different kinds of tea. Usually people do it, unlike tapas in the evening, we do it in the morning.
Okay, you do that in the morning.
Yeah, it's kind of like brunch.
Ah, okay.
So, you know, you see people going to the restaurants and having dim sum with their families on the weekends and with tea. And we spend, you know, an hour there or more having these little bits of tapas. So this is one thing you should really try. If you go in the winter, I would highly suggest another meal called hot pot. It's like a Chinese fondue.
I really love our podcast already because we have so many comparisons and all our listeners have already pictures in their mind. They even don't need to watch our video where we implant some videos.
Oh, right. Yeah, you know,
that's amazing.
The thing is, I teach intercultural issues. So, you know, I usually try to give people a visual picture of what they can imagine. So hot Chinese fondue, except without cheese. So we do it with broth.
Okay, what's broth?
Like a hot soup.
Okay.
Yeah, like you can also do with water. So basically, it's a pot in the middle, round table, and then people are sitting around it with a hot boiling pot of soup or water, and you have the different raw ingredients around, and you just dip it in the soup and cook whatever you want to eat.
Amazing. So
and this is a wonderful winter meal.
It definitely works out with the picture in my mind. I already have it in mind how I would eat that. So
I mean, people eat this all over China, different versions of it. In the south,
it's called hot pot.
Pot, yeah, it's called hot pot.
With hot pot, I have a different imagination.
Because the pot is so hot.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, well, here we call hot pots when we go up to the Alm and you have wooden circle and you sit inside with hot water, like a whirlpool, natural whirlpool, more or less.
Huh.
That's how we call it hot pot here. But
yeah, it's a bit different.
Yeah, it's a bit different, but it's both with hot water.
Hot pot, dim sum. What else? Oh, street food. Street food is very interesting. Street food is something we don't have that much of in Central Europe, or at least in Germany or Austria.
True.
Yeah. So street food is worth a try, but careful where you get it.
So that's really a thing, because people are often afraid that if they eat street food that they have some issues afterwards.
Yeah, I don't even think sometimes it's like germs, but I think you're not used to I mean, the locals are probably used to it, and as a tourist, I would be careful where you get it. You know, if it looks dodgy, don't.
Okay. What about tap water?
Tap water? No, I don't. I don't drink tap water in Hong Kong or Macau. People boil water.
Okay.
Yeah, or they buy bottled water. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a good question. I don't know if it is actually safe to drink, but I never did.
It's probably better if also you guys
Yeah.
boil it or buy it in the supermarket, right?
Yeah. I mean, people buy bottled water all the time.
You already had many comparison, and you already gave us a lot of pictures in our mind, which is amazing. So let's compare also Central Europe a bit with South China. What's the biggest difference which comes at first in your mind?
Architecture, language, weather, everything is different.
What's with the weather actually?
Well, if you go in the winter, you definitely don't need to pack winter clothing because it's quite warm in Hong Kong, Macau in the winter. I think I was walking around in a t-shirt during Christmas, probably. It gets a bit colder, but really not that cold.
Okay, so
Yeah.
even not in the night.
It's extremely humid. Sometimes you want to take a shower 3 times because you take a shower, you go out, and you're sweating. And also, in the summertime, you have to actually, when you go out, you should bring a sweater with you because outside is very hot. But then people love air conditioning. So if you go into shopping malls or buses, subways, it might get really cold, like 20 degrees. They set it on, 22 degrees. You might catch a cold that way.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that's a good tip.
Yeah, a very good tip actually, yeah.
Especially going in the summer.
Yeah.
Don't think, I don't need any sweaters. You should probably bring something.
Okay, carry a sweater the whole day with you because just the AC can bring you a cold.
Especially, you're sweating and then you go into this really cold place.
Yeah.
So
the big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the weather.
That's the weather, okay. So, and when is life taking place? So when is the city really busy and when it's more calm?
That's actually also a very good question. That's compared to where people they get off work, they go home, or they spend time with their family, they cook, right? I think whereas in Asia or Hong Kong, Macau, for example, it's very different. People spend more time out, I feel. I think it's because of the crampedness of space in Hong Kong. You're a family of 4 or 5 and you are in a 30 square meter apartment.
Wow. Yeah.
You don't really want to go home.
Yeah, I see.
So you want to spend as much time outside as possible and you go home to sleep.
Makes definitely
So that's
sense.
why also the restaurant business is very different than here. People eat out a lot, and it's normal to eat out every day, or not every day, but very often. This is something I really enjoyed when I was there, the ease of ordering takeaway just from the app, and so many choices. Within minutes they would come. And
yeah, and you definitely miss that here, right?
I definitely miss that here, yes. Yeah. That too.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine. Yeah. So definitely, listeners, if you're there, enjoy it, and also let us know if you tried many street food things and all the life back in the evening, right?
Yeah, I think Hong Kong is known to be a city that never sleeps, and I think that's really true. There's always something going on.
Amazing, happy to hear that. And well, in the end, do you have anything which I forgot to ask you? Some facts which people definitely have to know if they are going to Hong Kong, Macau, or somewhere in South China?
So just to finish up, you wouldn't need so much cash actually nowadays. especially in China. A lot of times people, I gotta go to the bank, I gotta get some Chinese money or Hong Kong money, and Macau has its own money. Actually, a lot of times they don't even accept cash.
Really? Is it already that
I
far?
do believe, I do believe in southern China.
So
it's
100%
true.
different than here. Here it's
Kind of,
sometimes even that they don't accept cards.
Yes. So that's another thing that's very different. People don't use cash that much anymore. I guess
And you mentioned Macau has a own currency.
Yes. Macanese patacas, I think it's called.
Okay.
Which is, I tried to exchange Macanese patacas before I went to Macau last year. I couldn't. It's not an internationally traded currency. So I wouldn't recommend getting Macanese money just to go to Macau for a couple of days, because you can actually spend Hong Kong dollars. You can spend even the Chinese yuan there. Because if you exchange Macanese money, you leave, it's useless. You
That's
will
a
not,
fun fact.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's Monopoly. You might as well play Monopoly with it.
Well,
it's very pretty, but you can't use it anywhere else, I think. Maybe in Portugal. I don't know.
me neither. We can check that. Yeah, that's an interesting fact which we can recheck.
Yeah,
afterwards,
so I think that's it. Yeah, enjoy yourselves. People are friendly, so.
Amazing. So, well, that's a very good summarize. And can you give our listeners some words in Mandarin or in your dialect when they are there, which can be helpful?
Okay. Well, to say hi, it's hi. We don't,
Yeah.
So I would teach you to say something which Cantonese people love to say because of the love for food. So when we greet friends, normally we say hi, and then we would ask, 食咗飯未? 食飯未? Which means, have you eaten yet? It is kind of like the German Mahlzeit.
And how was it pronounced?
食飯未? 食飯未?
食飯未?
Yeah, 食飯未?
食飯未?
Have you eaten yet? Mahlzeit.
Well, perfect. And do you also use thanks often? Like we say to everything, danke, like, do you want to have a water? Danke.
Yeah, we say thanks. But that's a little bit, okay, so there's two kinds of thanks. One is to thank somebody for doing you a favor. For example, a waiter gives you a glass of water, you would say, 唔該.
唔該.
But if somebody gives you a present, then it's another kind of thanks. It would be 多謝.
多謝.
Yeah, 唔該,多謝. So a good example, if you go to a restaurant and the waiter gives you some food, you say 唔該. When you leave, thank you for your business, they will say 多謝.
多謝.
Right.
Okay. Well, also very interesting. That's different than here, but important to know.
Yeah.
So all in all, if you don't have anything to add, thanks for your time. It was an amazing podcast. Listeners, I hope you feel the same way, and I'm sure you got a lot of information about South China, especially Hong Kong and Macau. And thanks for that, and all the best for your future here in Europe. And well, say hello to all your friends back at home, and also to your friend from the restaurant neighborhood. So
David.
maybe he gets some new customers.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Not that he needs it.
Anyway,
right.
thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for listening. And if you like the podcast, please share it and like it. I'm happy for any comment. And follow us on Instagram or on any listening app. I'm happy to hear from you and hopefully see you soon in the next episode. Bye bye.